Hey everybody, welcome to my talk. So my credentials have been leaked. Now what? Here at HashiTalk Deploy 2022. I'm Dwayne. I live in Chicago. You can find me out on Twitter at MCDwayne, and I'm happy to talk to you about anything we're talking about today, or anything you want to chat about. I work for GitGuardian. We are a platform helping people find and mitigate their secret leakage, as well as do validity checks for other things that they're deploying out there. I'll talk more about them in a little bit because I do reference one of our piece of research later in stock. So we'll move on. So very simply don't let your credentials leak and you'll be fine. But that's not reality. Reality is that we all deal with secrets and credentials all the time. I'm going to use those terms interchangeably. When I say secrets, I mean credentials. When I say credentials, I mean secret credentials. We're in this constant game of cat and mouse with malicious attackers who want our data, who want our compute resources to do all sorts of malicious things, and they want our information. The most likely place they're going to attack is the place where they can get the most access and do the most damage. If you're an individual user of a system, please update your passwords regularly, use strong ones, and use two-factor authentication. Same for the business. Make sure that where you're putting your secrets are actually secret places. Use password managers, please. And always enable MFA when sensitive data is at play. Remember that and you'll be fine. For everybody else, or for the DevOps organization, everybody else on the slide, for the DevOps organization, we need to worry about a lot of things. The API keys, our username password pairs for system logins, browser certificate tokens, certificates. There are so many things we need to take care of. EMV and PEM files. It's a growing problem. We wish it wasn't, but here's just a few examples from 2022 in just the last few months. Uber, a teenager got in through a phishing attempt, found PowerShell scripts that had hard-coded credentials, and then laterally moved through the system, pwning everything, even their Slack instance. Toyota had a subcontractor who accidentally pushed part of a repo publicly that contained a key to a data server that had 296,000 customers in it. It was public for 5 years before they figured it out. AstraZeneca, they leaked a secret to a test environment, which on the surface doesn't sound that big of a deal. It's a test environment. What could go wrong? Well, someone else had actually put real patient data, real customer data into that test environment. So we don't know exactly how much was exposed, but we do know it was exposed for over a year. There's a lot more stories like that, so much so that they actually fall into number 2 on the OWASP top 10 types of attacks. Fall under use of hard-coded passwords, CWE 327 here. This moved up a spot from 2020. This problem's only getting worse. This is something we corroborated in 2022 State of GitHub's State of Secret Sprawl on GitHub. You can go read that report from us at GitGuardian. We found 6 million secrets just laying out there in public GitHub repos. This is a major increase over the previous report that we did, and we saw, on average, 50% increase in the number of secrets per commits. It's a growing problem. So everybody agrees, don't do this. This is a bad idea. But we keep doing this. And I think it's not malicious. I think sometimes you just got to test if the API is working. It just is the database credential correct. This is a quick way to do that. The problem isn't that we do that. The problem isn't that we forget to take it back out and then we commit that and we push that. Then you're going to have a bad time. So if you were sitting there and think, well, was I exposed? I think I was. Here's a quick guide. If you see plain text credentials in your code, configuration, or logs, assume everyone else on Earth can see them too. They should never be plain text in those places. Is your EMV or PEM files or other security files in a repo that can be accessed by you? That's not good. Those should be somewhere else, not in your version control. And you know for sure who has access to the code. The best part about Git is that everyone has full access to the repos, and they can collaborate wherever they are on Earth. The downside is that everyone has access to the repo, and they can push it wherever they want, publicly or privately, inside your org or outside of your org. It's a double-edged sword with version control. But also, you might just get told that, hey, you've been breached. Uber, when he pwned, that teenager pwned their system, he went into Slack and told everyone, here's what I'm doing. They didn't believe him. So he went to the New York Times and said, hey, I pwned Uber and here's the proof. Hopefully you don't fall into that situation and you catch it early. But what should you do if you do get breached? That's why we're here at this talk. That's the heart of the matter. Breathe, validate what's going on, scope the impact, notify the impacted teams, report it, and then rotate those credentials. You might not agree with me on 100% on this order, and you might think, hey, you left some stuff out. Sure. But this is a starting point. I think these are the bare bones essentials that you need to do. And this is my preference in order. You might feel differently. But first, breathe. You're a human being before anything else. Being in a panic isn't helping anybody. No matter how bad the situation, take a step back, breathe, recite the Bene Gesserit litany against fear from Dune, and calm yourself down. Act urgently and with purpose, but not in a panic. That's going to be the first step. Breathe. You're a person first. Validate. Is there a reason to worry here? What type of credential was it? Was it to a system that you even use anymore? Is it still an active key? How recent is this? Is this a key you rotated 2 years ago that somehow ended up public? Fine, that's something to deal with, but it's nothing you need to stop your day or sweat about. Is it going just to a test environment that properly uses sanitized data? Much less concerned than someone actually getting into your production environment. But just start validating these things and start making lists. This is a short list we use inside of GitGuardian. You can find this on our docs and in a blog post, but it's just a place to start. But validate that there is a reason to worry. Scope the impact. In DevOps, everything's interconnected. Everyone in the company is touching the pipeline somehow. Figure out what systems are actually impacted. If it's an S3 bucket that has business PDFs in it, that's one concern. If it is an access key to your AWS environment in total, that's another terrifying thing that you should be aware of. Once you've scoped, like, all right, I think all of these systems are impacted by this incident, notify those teams. You might disagree with me that you should report it first and then notify to give them something, but start the conversation as early as you can. Make contact. It's IRC, Slack, pick up the phone, go walk to their desk, whatever you can do. They're going to provide more information than you have and give you insights that you won't find on your own just sitting at your desk looking at your computer. Once you've got all of that done and you've got the information at hand, that's the time to report it. That's the time to sit down and write, here's what happened, here's the timeline, here's who's affected, here's my proof, and here's how bad I think the situation is. Again, you might disagree with me on what order. Your company probably already has a reporting form that they prefer. Use that one. If you're starting completely from scratch, this isn't a bad set of steps. Also, how you're going to remediate it is a very important part of that report. Then finally, the thing that your gut told you to do in the beginning, rotate those keys. They're like old-fashioned fuses, but like old-fashioned fuses, you pull one out, everything connected to that system goes down, and anything reliant on that system will also then go down. Have those conversations. Hey, who on your team actually is responsible for replacing those credentials? How do we replace those credentials? Is there automation for that? What happens if something breaks? What's our plan? I don't know the answer to those things. Your company will have to have those conversations internally. So how do you use all of that to prevent future attacks? Well, simple things. Use get ignore files. Stop hard coding secrets. Use things like env files that you then don't commit. Here you can see this is improperly used. We've actually commented out env files. Don't do that. Use HashiCorp Vault. It's awesome. It's the gold standard. If you're on Azure, I recommend Azure Key Vault as well. There are tools to help you. HashiCorp Vault is awesome, and everyone should be using it. I'm not just saying that because I'm at HashiDeploy. Use GitHooks. They are the best automation platform I can recommend. They're user-friendly because they're just scripts, and they're everywhere, and your developers already love Git. So there are 3 pre-commit hooks that you can hook into to look and see if a secret has been added to the code. and will prevent that commit from happening. There's a pre-receive hook that says, before I take it onto the server, those changes onto the server, I will look for the secrets and then I'll reject them. You don't have to build this yourself. You can build this yourself, but AWS Labs has an option for this. Trufflehog has an option for this. And of course, we at GitGuardian have an option for this with GG Shield. Here's what ours looks like. You have a hard-coded secret. You try to commit it, and it says, hey, you can't do that because you have a secret here, and there's 2 instances of it. How do you prepare for future leaks? Because they're going to happen. That's just reality. Well, if you ask Google, it tells you this. This is the entire document in Google Help. Change your keys and redesign your app. It's true, but it's not super helpful. What I think you also need to do is organize your learnings. I think playbooks is the right methodology for that. Take what you've learned from the incident, those reports, and start looking through them. Take some time, set it aside. This isn't part of the incident. This is a retro. This is a larger, how do we better position ourselves with our security posture by having these remediation playbooks at hand. Playbooks can be this simple. If this happened, we do this. If this happens, do that. Just think about them as flowcharts or checklists, making it easy and thoughtless for someone to say, all right, this happened, I follow the dotted lines and we fix it. And then they don't panic, and then there's a lot less to worry about. Again, you can use all sorts of off-the-shelf checklists or things in those flowcharts to assure that you're in the right place. Those are ours. You can use it if you want. If you do build playbooks and they start getting complex and you start needing to log into multiple systems and pull up certain reports and fire off certain commands in certain orders, you can start automating that using notebooks. Turn playbooks into notebooks is a project. I'm just saying Jupyter is the standard out there for how notebooks work. I'm not saying go use Jupyter notebooks, but if you can't automate a thing, automate a thing. And notebooks aren't a bad way to do complex sets of repeatable steps. So in conclusion, you're not alone out there. We're all in this fight together. There are a lot of malicious actors after our data and tools. If an incident happens, you're human first. Breathe, calm down, focus on what needs to be done, and then go validate that there's a situation and how severe it is. Scope the impact throughout the DevOps organization. What systems are affected? Notify those teams and get their feedback as you're building all this information out. Finally, organize your findings into a formal report. As you're building that, start the remediation process and actually rotate those keys. Take those learnings out of your head and put them into things like playbooks, or at least docs somewhere, to know if this happens again, we know exactly what to do. I've been Dwayne. I live in Chicago. Hit me up on Twitter. I'm happy to talk to you about anything. This has been my talk, so my credentials have been leaked. Now what? Here at HashiTalks Deploy. And I'll be talking to you over in the chat for this event, but if you're watching this after the fact, hit me up on Twitter. I'm always happy to talk to people. Thanks.